Well, I can tell you that we didn't, and you know, I like our team, and I'm down here preparing for this game, so I really don't understand what they're talking about. I heard about it right before we got on the plane to leave, but I can assure you that we prepare each week the way you're supposed to prepare, and I like the fact that our team knows how to do that.
So that was Louisville head coach Bobby Petrino denying the team ever saw any of Wake Forest plays when they played in November. Now, these comments are contrary to information from an investigation which revealed a former Wake Forest coach and radio announcer, Tommy Elrod, leaked plays to opponents, including Louisville. Petrino's comments also contradict the school's official statement that I'm going to share with you now. Our offensive coordinator, Lonnie Galloway, received a call from Elrod during the week of the Wake Forest game and shared some information with him that week. Among the communication were a few plays that were sent and then shared with our defensive staff. None of the special plays will run during the course of the game. Our defense regularly prepares for similar formations every week and their normal game plan. Stephen A., what's your reaction to Petrino denying that the school saw Wake Forest plays?
Well, my reaction is considered a source. I mean, a legitimate argument can be made that Petrino's a liar of the highest order. And why in God's name would anybody believe anything that he has to say? I think Booger McFarland on Mike and Mike this morning said that if Bobby Petrino told you it was raining, you don't even look at your umbrella. You just go outside, you're in your car. What you do is you roll up the sunroof, for crying out loud. You don't even think about it because it's Bobby Petrino talking. Max Kellerman, let's go down the list. I want to give some credit to our researchers here because I just want to read specifically off of what I have here, just the lies that we know factually.
Going back, what, about 15 years?
Actually, that's exactly correct. That's 2001. All right. You got Petrino, then the offensive coordinator with the Jacksonville Jaguars, takes the Auburn offensive coordinator job without telling Tom Coughlin, then the coach of the Jaguars before he went to the Giants, of course. Then in 2003, he's the Louisville coach. He accepts the job, but he interviews for the Auburn job, denies it until Auburn issues a statement acknowledging that they interviewed him on several occasions. Then Petrino asked for forgiveness and attributes and chalks it up to being a quote-unquote young coach. Then from 2004 to 2006, he interviewed for the Raiders job in the NFL, the Notre Dame job, and the LSU job in college football, denying it each time until get busted. Then in July 13th, 2006, he signs a 10-year deal with Louisville, all right, swearing how much he loves it and he wants to stay there. But then at the same time, he's also looking for another job. In 2007, less than 6 months after saying he was at Louisville forever, he takes the Falcons head coaching job. Then he skips out on the Falcons job after promising to stay there, okay? I mean, just the laundry list of lies. I don't even have time to read it on national television. How many times? It's one thing to lie. It's another thing entirely to lie pathologically. But then to make matters worse, get busted each and every time and still lies again. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So now we got to do. That's right. And now we got to do. Go ahead, Max. What do you mean? What do you mean?
It might be worse because those are the times we're aware of that he lied.
Right.
You know, we think he's bad at lying because he gets caught a lot. What if he's really good at lying and those are the times he got caught, but not all the other times?
This dude is pathological. And then here's the deal. You got this dude at Wake Forest, this dude, Elrod. First of all, not only should he be banned from Wake Forest, he should be banned from the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which is where I went to school at Winston-Salem State. We don't like liars in those parts, okay? We don't like lies anywhere, but especially in those parts. She shouldn't even be allowed in city limits. Shouldn't even be allowed in city limits. But then to sit up there and to call and try to give the plays and stuff, and then you got a coordinator that actually took the call, took some notes, shared it with the defense, etc., etc. This is all stuff that happened under Bobby Petrino. So to me, consider the source. The man lies religiously. The only thing you can trust Bobby Petrino about is his name. His name is clearly Bobby Petrino. We can confirm that.
Are you sure?
Outside of that, you can't believe a damn thing the man says. It's just that simple.
Look, in the words of Ed Lover, come on, son. You got the info, but you didn't use the info.
Come on now.
Even if someone totally credible made that claim, we would be dubious, right? Your reaction would be a cynical one. But this is not someone totally credible. He's a good coach. But and maybe the way the NCAA and college is set up, good coaches will tend to stretch the truth at times. But this guy has a reputation, even by those standards, that is different than others. He is known as a guy who's not trustworthy. That's his reputation, anyway, as I understand it. And in this case, even were he credible, it would be a stretch. But he isn't. I don't find him credible here. And given his reputation, less credible than even someone else might be. So at a certain point, it becomes farcical. I mean, does anyone believe him?
Well, you know what the other thing, Max, that no one's considered? The kind of aspersions this could potentially cast upon a Lamar Jackson or anybody else. And here's why I say that. Certainly we saw how great Lamar Jackson is, how special he is, and he has nothing to do with something like this. But when you talk about a coach and a particular institution willing to potentially, because they've denied it, yes, we saw it, but we didn't use anything. It wasn't a part of our playbook scheme for that particular game and all of that other stuff. How do we know this is the only time something like that has happened? How do we know this is the only time that something like that has been used to the advantage of a Bobby Petrino coach team? So it brings anything associated with him into the equation. Here's the bottom line.
You're right. You're right. But if you're a player and someone gives you information or puts you in a position to do better, succeed, have a competitive advantage, I don't know that it's incumbent upon the player to question where the information is coming from.
No, I'm not saying
okay,
that.
Coach, you want me here? I'm going there.
That's not what I'm saying.
But it tarnishes somehow them in some way. And I think that if anyone's thinking that way, it's not fair to the players.
Well, it's not that you're holding the player accountable. You're saying that the coach he answers to has contaminated stuff. He's fogged, you know, just the genuine feelings of laudables that you want to throw in the direction of that particular player.
Here's a question for you, Stephen A. Here's a question. How many coaches, what percentage of coaches do you think in college football, or were you a coach even, and someone handed you the other guy's playbook, how many turn it down? Do you turn it down?
I would turn it down.
Yeah,
I would turn it down.
I don't know how many do. I don't know how many do. If they're handed the keys, how many say, no, take the keys back?
I'm not a winner if I cheated to get there. Anything that's within the rules, I'm cool. Like, for example, if I got a scout team and we're scouting you and we figure stuff out and know what you're doing based on what we've seen and things of that nature, that's fine. But if I know that I'm doing something salacious, if I know that I'm doing something underhanded, then to me, that's not winning. That's cheating. And if the coach of a college program can't have that mentality, I certainly don't want my child playing for.
But even if you don't instigate the cheating, if you're the beneficiary of it, the world is teaching people, and children included, that as long as you don't get caught, and sometimes even if you do, that you can benefit from cheating. And this is an issue that's even affected our national politics at times.
Oh, gosh.
So I mean, you know, this is the lesson that we preach. There's a South Park episode about this. That's really good, and it involves Bill Belichick, in fact. That's not the idea that, well, if you're a winner, you don't cheat. That's not the message I think most people get through their life experience in reality.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome back to First Take, presented by Bass Pro Shops.
Jerry Jones is the owner for the Dallas Cowboys. He cuts the check. And this man has come out publicly and all but said, I hope something happens to Dak Prescott so Tony Romo could get up in there. This ain't a bus driver we're talking about here. This dude is something special. How in God's name does that benefit Dak Prescott? What's inescapable and what is undeniable is the fact that Jerry Jones has made it very, very clear he don't want Dak to be that guy.
All right. Will Kane back with us. So, Will, that was earlier in the show. You were not with us
at the time.
I
promise you I didn't miss it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to Stephen A. and Max right there?
Well, I've had time to recover, but I was a little worked up about it. I mean, we also left out the key word, I think, which was, you said Jerry Jones, Stephen A. was trying to sabotage Dak Prescott. That's interesting. And Max says Jerry Jones has called Dak Prescott a bus driver. So let's make a couple quick points. It's amazing to me your low opinion, both of you, your low opinion of Dak Prescott. See, I have made the argument from time to time that the Cowboys should consider when they would move towards Tony Romo, that if Dak puts together a couple more games that are below average or not up to what the standards are of a Super Bowl team, they should consider Tony Romo. And the feedback I constantly get is, you don't care about this team, you're trying to undercut Dak? It's the same thing you're doing. You guys think Dak can't handle this? You think Dak's confidence is that weak? You think Dak's belief in himself is subject to the latest comments from you or Jerry Jones or me? That is a low opinion of Dak Prescott. Earlier in the show, you both said, to your credit, that Dak could handle the outside pressure. If you can walk that far, why do you take such a left turn at the last moment? Stephen A., I know the answer with you. Jerry Jones wants to sabotage Dak Prescott. Your answer for that left turn out of nowhere is simply your bias. You just can't see the Cowboys the right way. You've admitted on the show that your emotion has clouded your judgment. But Max, you're a man who prides himself on being rational. If you could see the world in ones and zeros, that would be your preference. You want to see it all add up mathematically. But you say that Jerry Jones called Dak a bus driver? Yeah. You know he did not do that. You know how to read that quote, Max. He said, He said Tony Romo is not a bus driver in comparing him to other backup quarterbacks, not in comparing him to Dak.
No, a bus driver is a backup quarterback.
And Tony's not. He's saying most backups are bus drivers, and Tony is not.
Boy,
Dak.
you read that. I don't know what your reading comprehension scores were, Will, but boy, you got that one wrong.
Sorry.
You are. First, I thought you were just creating a straw man in me to have something to whack at, because I agree that Dak Prescott's mentally very strong, obviously, and this kind of criticism is not going to affect him the way it would affect somebody else. But to argue that Jerry Jones is referring to other backup quarterbacks as bus drivers, when bus driver could be heard as game manager, and he's clearly saying Tony Romo is better than that? Who do you think he's talking about?
This isn't a debate. I'm sorry, bud. You were wrong on this. The reading comprehension is clear. He's referring to other backups. He's saying our $100 million guy over here, $100 million guy, we're not talking about this being Kyle Orton over there. We're not talking about this being a bus driver. He's not saying the guy who's in the game, who's won him 11 games, is a bus driver. He's simply not doing that.
He's saying Tony Romo is more than a guy who doesn't make mistakes and is a game manager. Bus driver might as well be read as game manager, which is what Dak Prescott's been accused of being, even though he's more. First of all, game manager is not a dirty word. And secondly, Dak Prescott's clearly shown to be much more than that.
When he says that, he is
elevating Romo at the expense of Dak.
Stephen A.
Well, I was actually enjoying the back and forth banter between the two guys. And I mean, in the case of Will, I find it not just ironic, but absolutely hysterical that he would accuse me of being biased when it comes to the Cowboys, as if he's not. I love how he just eradicates and omits himself from that equation. Like, oh, I'm not objective, but he is. He's just a paragon of virtue in that regard. Stop your nonsense. You know better. Well, you have no objectivity when it comes to your Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, by the way, especially when it comes to Tony Romo, because the one thing that easily a little child could predict when it comes to Will Cain is that it is important for him to be right. And how in God's name could you possibly be right if you ignored what Jerry Jones is trying to do with Tony Romo? You probably are the only person on the planet that wants Tony Romo in the lineup more than Jerry Jones. So who are you to sit up there and then to pick apart my statement, which are very obvious, by the way. Jerry Jones has a, hold on, zip it, listen. Jerry Jones is the owner for the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott has won 11 straight. The only 2 losses has been to the New York Giants. They are 11-2, clearly in position to win the NFC East, clearly in a position to be the #1 seed in the entire NFC. And yet Jerry Jones is talking about what a great, great moment it would be if Tony Romo found his way back into that lineup. What do you call that, Will? What do you call it?
Honesty. That's what I call it.
Oh,
honesty.
Honesty in terms of his feelings?
Yeah.
In terms of his feelings and his wishes?
My turn.
And his wishes?
My turn. Let me tell you this. You're right. I don't lie to anybody. I'm not here playing a role. I'm not acting. I have bias on the Cowboys. It is true. As do you. I have a positive bias towards the Cowboys. You have a negative
one.
You have a negative one. You know
all
the
I
difference
said to you
between
was
you and
don't
me?
sit there and
Hold
leave
on.
it on me.
Hold
That's
on.
all I said. Don't forget yourself.
Okay, but the difference between us, while we both have our bias, is that I've been right and you've been wrong.
How?
I have sat here with you week after week, except for the weeks when you couldn't face the competition with me, telling you the Cowboys were going to win, starting with the Washington Redskins in week 2, all the way through now. You have been wrong.
No.
Again,
Will,
and again,
time out,
and again.
Time out, Will. Time out, Will.
Well, you were saying Romo was going to get his job back.
It on tape.
I'm not done with that, Max. It's not over.
Will. Hold it, Will. You sounded like that dude from Saturday Night Live that played Tim Kaine. Relax. Chill out. Here's the deal, okay? I am on the record saying that the Dallas Cowboys, before the season began, would win the NFC East. That's number one. Number two, I said ain't no way in hell they're winning the Super Bowl. Come to me in February and let's see if I'm wrong. Number three, what I said is this. Why are you rooting for Tony Romo? Me personally, if Tony Romo is back in the lineup, it will ensure that Jerry Jones has messed it up and the Dallas Cowboys are going down. So I won't mind. You want Tony Romo regardless of what Dak Prescott does, but you call yourself a Cowboy fan when in fact you're really rooting for Tony Romo? How do you explain that?
And Will,
Max.
to sit there and say that you've been right and Stephen A's been wrong about the Cowboys all year. Yeah, this is the year that the Cowboys have so far gone 11-2.
Yeah.
The Cowboys fan is going to be right a lot that year. I mean, you know,
it's been a good year,
that's just
Max.
the way it goes.
Yeah, it's been a good year.
Yes, it has if you're a Cowboys fan so
Here,
far.
final points on this. The Jerry Jones and how do I explain myself to you, Stephen A. Jerry Jones is being honest. He's not painting it or spinning it or being a politician. He's acknowledging that he has an emotional connection to Tony Romo. And the story would play out well. The story would play out well that the franchise quarterback would win the Super Bowl. But he doesn't want to sabotage Dak. Neither do I. I think the Cowboys can win a Super Bowl with either. I think Tony increases the odds. I'm not alone, by the way. Dominique Foxworth, Bomani Jones, other people have acknowledged this as well. I'm not alone here.
Would Dak Prescott be anything less than
sabotage
if Tony Romo ends up in the lineup, even if he doesn't get injured, but Tony Romo still found his way up in the lineup? Would that not be sabotage?
Sabotage. Like he wants to sabotage.
We gotta go.
Please.
Listen, the Giants know about sabotage. They sabotage your Cowboys choice. Well, so good to see you.